up to 80% of visible facial aging is driven by sun exposure. What would change if you could cut that in half starting today? In this video, I'll show you the exact moves that slow photoaging fast at 40 and above. Skip them and you're basically compounding preventable spots and lines year after year. And yes, we're gonna hit the best skincare brands for women over 40 so you can find the right fit for your skin. Here's what you'll learn today. A noticeable 4-step capsule routine for 40 plus skin, both AM and PM, plus quick swaps for sensitive, drier, or breakout prone skin so you can personalize without all the guesswork. You'll see how to layer and time products around your real life, workouts, makeup, travel, and even post-procedure, so you can protect your barrier and speed visible recovery. We'll also touch on how to address menopausal skin concerns as well. At the ages of 40 and above, your skin barrier is your bottom line. When it's strong, every active ingredient works better, but when it's cracked or compromised, even nice things can sting and irritate your skin. So grabbing tools from a junk drawer makes simple fixes take forever, and they just complicate matters. A smaller toolbox with 4 of the right tools solves everything much faster. And that's why 4 right steps beat 14 random ones. That's your routine today. All right, let's start with the morning. What are the 2 most important steps? It's gonna be protect and antioxidize. So start with a gentle, non-stripping cleanser. I actually don't use a cleanser at all. I just splash my face with cold water, I towel dry, and then move on. If you are acneic or you just tend to have oilier skin, then obviously cleansing is gonna be your first step. And then I always recommend and prefer L-ascorbic acid, a 10 to 20% with a pH of 3.5 or lower in an airtight, opaque packaging. And then I like to follow that up with another moisturizer that has vitamin C. I use, after my serum, I use the Hydrinity's Hydra C. That's a tetrahexyl decyl moisturizer, and it's a very potent one at that. And so I put about 2 pumps all over my face. It absorbs beautifully, there's no pilling, or you could just simply follow up with a moisturizer that blends like ceramides, cholesterol, and fatty acids to support the barrier. And then you're gonna finish with a zinc-based sunscreen. I am using ingredients, zinc oxide with iron oxide. It's a tinted zinc-based sunscreen and it's beautiful. It acts kind of as my foundation, so I feel like I get a lot of coverage with it. And yeah, it's my favorite. But also Elta MD has a lot of really beautiful sunscreens as well. You just wanna find one that's zinc-based, right? And something that is elegant enough where you want to use it every single day and you stay consistent. All right, so now let's move into the evening. What are the 2 most important steps? It's repair and renew. So you're gonna cleanse, and sometimes you're gonna do a double cleanse, especially if you wore makeup and you've got water-resistant sunscreen. For me, this is the first time I'm cleansing of the day, and I use PCA Skin. They have like a daily exfoliant cleanser. It's got little beads in there, so I feel like I'm getting a nice exfoliation as well. And that one really does the trick for me. I feel like nice and smooth after I use it. And then you're gonna jump into a retinoid. So if you're tolerant, you always want to be on a tretinoin of 0.05 to 0.1%, okay? That's really what you want to end up at, or especially if you're 40 and above. You're gonna use a pea size, and then you're gonna ramp up 2 to 4 nights per week. But if you're sensitive and you can't really quite tolerate tretinoin, that's okay. You just wanna start with a 0.025%, and if that doesn't work, you use it once and your skin is burning or it's extremely sensitive, then I would highly recommend using a retinaldehyde of a 0.05% to a 0.1%. When we talk about retinols, again, if you watch my video about retinol versus tretinoin, you would know that the 2 are very different, and retinol is just going to take a lot longer of using it consistently to see anything changing in your skin. So try to opt for retinaldehyde if you're extremely sensitive. Now that's gonna be your basic skincare regimen, the one that's going to move the needle. However, if you're perimenopausal or menopausal, there's gonna be some customization here. So if you're in your late 40s or you're experiencing symptoms of perimenopause, you have increased skin laxity, and there's a lot more perioral lip lines or wrinkles. Lasers are always going to be your best bet. I've seen it time and time again. It literally corrects all of that. But if you're not ready for the laser and you want to use something that's going to help you in that department, you can simply add a product called estradiol. Usually it's a 0.2% in an airless pump form, and it's in like a cream base. That's estrogen cream, and you can just kind of use that in your evening routine. And what you would do is you would alternate nights between your tretinoin one night, and then you would do your estradiol the other night. Always talk to your doctor about this, your dermatologist about this, but this has become very, very common now. And there's a lot of research on its safety and efficacy. So now if you're sitting there and you're like, okay, Tara, I've already tried all this. I've tried tretinoin, my skin doesn't agree with it. I've tried retinaldehyde, I can't do it. My skin is just too sensitive. I hear you. There's a lot of you like this, so it's okay. But what you want to do is just simply replace your L-ascorbic acid, your vitamin C, with niacinamide. And you want to use a 2 to 5%. And then just consider, at that point, switching tretinoin with retinol, or some other, derivative, HPR, hydroquinone, retinoate. So now let's move into all the skin types, right? So some people are drier, some people have acne. What would you do to customize this for you? Well, if you happen to be drier, you're just gonna swap L-ascorbic acid, vitamin C, with the tetrahexyldecyl, okay? That's the next best thing that you can use. And I would recommend Hydrinity Hydra C. It's a very potent, it's got tetrahexyldecyl as the second ingredient, and I've been using it for a couple months now and I love it. And then also Ingredient has tetrahexyldecyl of, I believe, 33% in a serum in squalane, a base of squalane. So that's very emollient and it feels so good on the skin, especially at night when you really want to lock in some moisture. That's a great alternative. So if you happen to be breakout prone or you're experiencing adult acne, what you're going to do is you're going to add in salicylic acid. You want to find 2 to 5%. And you're going to add that in your evening protocol. So this would alternate with your retinoid. So your retinoid and moisturizer one night, and then the next night salicylic acid. Now, if you're pigment prone or you happen to have dyspigmentation, melasma, or you just have a ton of sun damage and you want to get started with something, then definitely look for, a product that has kojic acid in it, 1 to 4%. Kojic acid is one of the game changers, I think, in pigmentation issues. In fact, Ingredient makes these pads that are mixed up the day you purchase it. So they're very potent, and then you just take a pad out every day and you wipe it on, and then you go. The other ingredient that you want to look for is arbutin. And arbutin is basically an alternative to hydroquinone. And I think arbutin works way better than hydroquinone. I've used hydroquinone for years and it was never great. And you had to go on it for 3 weeks, off of it for 3 weeks. So anyway, those two are wonderful. And what you're gonna do is if you're using kojic acid, you're gonna cleanse kojic acid, then your vitamin C, then your sunscreen, right? Arbutin, really, I prefer using arbutin in the evenings. So you would alternate retinoid one night, arbutin the next night. So pretty simple. So now let's talk about layering and timing around real life. So workouts and sauna, you're gonna go in with a bare face with a little SPF, and then afterwards you're gonna rinse or use a gentle cleanser and reapply SPF, especially if you're outdoors. So again, there's really no need to use any antioxidants when you're going to the gym, working out, or going to a sauna, because you're essentially just gonna sweat it all off. This is kind of a tricky one because not all vitamin C's are created equal. The ingredient vitamin C that I use is hydrophilic, meaning it's water-based, so it absorbs very quickly. And then the Hydra C by Hydrinity absorbs as well very quickly. However, if you have SkinCeuticals, you know that it's very sticky and it pills with your makeup. So I would recommend using that up and ditching and going to something that absorbs a little bit better for you. That way your makeup is gonna go on so much nicer. So you let that sit for 2 to 5 minutes, and then I just kind of blot on wherever I want my concealer, blend in, and then I do my sunscreen. Now, those of you that know Color Science has some really great sunscreens that you can use. I'm not such a huge fan because I don't like using all of the ingredients that they all have in them. And right now, I just prefer staying with zinc based. So I use my ingredient, zinc oxide, on top of my makeup. So that's kind of what I found to work. Just do your makeup first, then your sunscreen. Now, what about if you're traveling, right? You know, a lot of people ask me this all the time. And what I always say is just simplify. When you know you're going on vacation or something, you don't have to bring all your active ingredients. In fact, what I always say is just bring a cleanser for the morning, a moisturizer, and a sunscreen. And then at night, just use your cleanser and your moisturizer. Now, the only two things that I would add to that is hypochlorous acid. And make sure that's not hydrochloric acid, that's hypochlorous acid. Hydrinity has a beautiful one. It's hyoscine, and it's a mister of hypochlorous acid that is antimicrobial. So we've all been on the airplane, people are sneezing everywhere, wiping their noses, and it's just a way to kind of disinfect anything on your skin that would cause breakouts or irritation. The other thing is going to be a lip SPF. I'm a big fan of this one. There's a lot of brands out there that you can use and find, but especially if you're going to be outdoors, that's a really great kind of adjunct to have with you. All right, now let's get into post-procedure, whether that's post-injectables, post-lasers, post-microneedling. Always follow your provider's instructions, obviously. But just as a general rule of thumb, on days 0 to 3, like after a laser, microneedling, whatever, you're going to use water or an ultra gentle cleanser to cleanse the skin, right? Then a barrier cream, probably most likely even petrolatum like Vaseline, Aquaphor. You're going to avoid sun like the plague. If you have to walk the dog, put a wide brim hat on, but just try to avoid the sun as much as you can. And then, of course, switch to a mineral sunscreen. So zinc-based sunscreen is best. And then on days 3 to 5, you're going to slowly reintroduce hydration serums and a bland moisturizer. So then around week 1 and beyond, you can do a slow restart of your vitamin C and your retinoid every third night, moving and ramping up to every other night. So little side note, you're going to want to advance the neck and the chest at half the pace of the face. So I know that doesn't really make a lot of sense, but if you're doing every third night with your retinoid a week after your procedure, then you're really going to want to maybe do once a week on the neck and the chest to start, because this is much more sensitive down here and it's much more prone to irritation, especially after a laser. So I have another video, if you guys haven't seen it already, that provides a 60-second label audit test that helps you find a good product on the shelves while you're shopping. But the number one thing that you need to know is ingredient order. Okay, this is a law that's been in place. So anything over 1% is listed in descending order. So if you find the active ingredient that you're looking for within that top 5 ingredients, that generally means that it's going to be a more potent product for you. So if the headline active sits below, say, fragrance or something like that, then it's probably underdosed. All right, so now let's move into something that's more for all of you budget-minded people, right? When to spend, when to save. So you always want to spend on a good, high-quality vitamin C because it degrades. You want to make sure it is in a good packaging, opaque bottle. You want to make sure that the pH is 3.5 or lower and all the other things. The second thing is going to be a high quality retinoid. Now, I know you can find these in the drugstore, over the counter. A good retinoid is not going to be as expensive as a vitamin C. I know the one that I use from Ingredient has vitamin E in it, so it's a very emollient kind of hydrating base. That one's $100 plus tax. The third thing is going to be estradiol. You want it to be efficacious, right? And there's been so many places that I've gone to in the past where, they've sold me a estradiol cream and it's just in some pot or container. I've opened it 1,000 times. I have no idea if it's expired or not. But if you spend a little bit more, the one that I use is from a compounding pharmacy, and it's about $125, but it's in an airless pump. It has an expiration date. I know exactly how much is in there. So that really does help, but that's something that you kind of want to spend on. And then, of course, this is debatable, but SPF, right? There are good, solid sunscreens over the counter that are definitely inexpensive. A lot of my colleagues will disagree with me, and you might too, but this is where I spend, because for me, I want my sunscreen to be cosmetically elegant. I want it to have very minimal ingredients, but important ingredients. And I want it to kind of cover, I want it to kind of feel like a makeup. So for me, I'm willing to spend, what do I spend on it? $50 on my sunscreen. And it's worth it to me. But if you're not that person and you just want something to grab and go, then by all means, this is a category that you could save. The other place that you're going to want to save is a moisturizer, right? Basic ceramide moisturizers are a dime a dozen. You can find those anywhere inexpensively. So it's just so funny because a lot of people ask me like, well, what about, and they'll name all these fancy brands, Augustinus Bader and this and that. And I'm just like, look, it's a moisturizer. We're not reinventing the wheel here. This is not active ingredients that are going to shift the way that your skin looks. It may make you look more hydrated, and that's well and fine. And if you have some disposable income and you like it for whatever reason, to each their own, but this is definitely somewhere where most people can save. The other area that you can save on is exfoliation. So for instance, mechanical scrubs, anything with little beads or granules that are used to just polish the skin, they're very inexpensive. Also, AHAs, alpha hydroxy acids, now you can get over the counter, very easy to get inexpensively. So that is something that you can kind of save on. So then you can splurge on the more important items. And now just to recap on our budget-friendly mindset, I've created a budget ladder. So tier 1 is going to be the least expensive, right? Tier 1 is your cleanser, your moisturizer, and maybe your SPF depending. So this is where you're going to start. Tier 2, you're going to add in an alpha hydroxy acid or a scrub, some type of exfoliation, but this is something that you can gradually add in. And then tier number 3 is going to be your retinoids. And generally a good retinoid is around $50 to $100. So that could be your third item that you add in. And then of course, tier 4 is going to be the most expensive, which is going to be your vitamin C serum, which typically costs $150 to $200. And this tier 4 is going to also include the estradiol as well, which is about $125. And then tier 5, of course, are going to be the laser treatments. If you are one that suffers from things like lip lines and dynamic crow's feet lines and laxity or jowls or, the skin quality is not great, even despite using a very good skincare regimen, lasers are a must. They are the only thing in my 18 years of experience that I have seen drastically move the needle in one session. And yes, they're expensive. But the one thing about lasers that not a lot of people know or that not a lot of people talk about is that when you do a series of, let's say, halos, right? Halo laser. If you do 2 to 3 of those, your skin remains intact and beautiful and glowy for years after that, as long as you're using your good skincare habits at home. So lasers absolutely are more expensive, something to think about, but everybody, especially 40 and above, should all be planning their laser treatments. All right, let's say you're a beginner and you've never used skincare before, or let's say you just want to start fresh. Here is my irritation-proof ramp up. The beginning of the month of weeks 1 and 2, you're going to use a retinoid just 2 times per week, okay, at nighttime only. Then you're going to use your vitamin C every other morning. And if you're still a little reactive to that, just include a barrier cream at night, every single night, even when you're using your retinoid. And then at the end of the month, weeks 3 and 4, you're going to increase your retinoid to every other night, and your vitamin C is going to be daily. And then on weeks 5 and above, you're going to graduate to applying your retinoid every single night. You're swapping products every week, always trying the new, latest, greatest skincare regimen, and you don't even really know what you're applying. You have a closet full of stuff, and it's just fun for you. But that is definitely a mistake. You're not going to see anything improving when you have that strategy. And then the next mistake is using actives right before a workout. I've done this before. A lot of people have done this. I'm in a rush. I don't have time. I'm just putting my vitamin C everywhere, my glycolic acid, or whatever I'm doing, and I go do a workout. Well, lo and behold, I've got a pin rash now and I'm super itchy everywhere because you're sweating and all of this is just highly irritating. So that is something that you want to avoid always before a workout or sauna. And the next mistake that I see a lot is ignoring your neck, chest, and hands. And we've all seen these people, right? Like their face looks amazing and they look at their neck and it's like, whoa, sun damage everywhere and brown spots. So what you want to do in terms of dosage or how much you're using is you're going to use half of the amount that you would normally use on your face, on your neck, and your chest and your hands. And you always want to make sure you protect it with sunscreen. So now that you have your new age-appropriate skincare regimen and you have a better understanding of how to apply everything to really move the needle, you might be sitting there saying like, okay, Tara, I'm menopausal or perimenopausal and I have those deep lip lines and those expression lines and I have laxity and jowls in my neck. Then definitely check out this video. This video is all about CO2 and erbium, which are the gold standard of lasers that really transform your skin without any injectables. Definitely watch that. It's going to help you guys prepare for what to expect if this is something that you are looking into and exactly how to take care of it and the timeline, right? Because not all of us have downtime. So definitely check that out and I'll see you guys next time.